this thing going around that work is bad and leisure time is good. You know, I think it is right that we should work 6 days and rest. Now, on my leisure time, my rest, I'm not what they would call a Sabbath keeper. I do keep the Sabbath, but I'm not like, I'm not going to go to a restaurant and serve because I'm making somebody work. I'm going to go to the restaurant. I'll tell you right now, I'm going to the restaurant. Okay? But what I don't do, like all my animals, they'll get fed on the Sabbath day. They get fed. That's all they're getting. I'm not mowing grass. I won't allow my guys. I had one of my guys, the guys at the mission. I'm not there all the time. It's like most of you directors aren't at the mission all the time. But they can't work. They can't paint. They can't, I mean, unless they're going to do paint by numbers or something. I'm talking about they can't paint a wall. They can't mow the grass. I mean, now, if the stool's overflowing, you got to fix that. I mean, something critical you've got to fix. But just general work, no, we don't work. We don't work. We don't work. We don't work on Sunday. I don't work on Sunday. So, yes.
Here's my question. Are we not, as men, I want to use the word biologically or structurally made so that work is actually more than a job? It creates in us a sense of identity, a sense of worthiness. I don't think it's I'm not talking about a cultural thing, but is it not a biological thing that's happened by God's creation that work is actually helping us to define who we are? Does that make sense?
Yes, absolute sense to me. When I was in the military...
Now, I'm not talking about women, I'm just talking about guys.
Well, I think there's a certain amount of identity in everything. I mean, my wife she does not have a job. My wife's job is taking care of me. I won't let her work. I mean, you don't let your wife work? No, I don't let her work. I don't let her work. She cannot have a job. I will not allow her to get a job. Your wife can't, you. Yeah, I'm that guy. You know, I'm just that guy. I don't want my wife to work. I want my wife to clean the house, take care of me, and I'm very selfish and I'm very needy, okay? I need, I'm to a fault.
And she can cook better than you can.
She would probably tell you that's not true because I'm a very good cook. I'm a chef. I like to cook. In fact, I cooked the other day. I found this recipe, Peruvian chicken. Oh, man, was it good. So I took it and I sliced it all up and I set the sauce on it, you know, like I made a plate. My wife goes, see, that's the difference between me and you. She goes, I would never do that. I just put the food on a plate. Here it is. You know, my wife is a good cook. I'm a really good cook. Okay? But the point is this, no, my wife has work to do. But see, she sees her value in the work that she does. See, now when I say I don't want her to have a job, it's because I want her to be open to ministry. One thing great about, we take all of our men through Financial Peace University. You know what I mean? Okay. I take all the men through Financial Peace University. My wife and I have gone through it ourselves, and you can go to, she'd tell you the date. You can go to YouTube on the date and see Pam and I on the Dave Ramsey Show doing our debt-free screen. And we've done our debt-free screen. We're very excited about that. We live debt-free. I run the mission debt-free. We carry no debt. I don't personally carry debt. And the bottom line is this. You know what? By not carrying debt, John, guess what that does for my wife? She don't have to work. Because we don't need a second income. I mean, she can work for the Lord. So we had a tornado go through our town. And it destroyed a bunch of the town. It's been pretty bad. It almost couldn't come. It was so bad.
Can you say that again?
A tornado came through our town?
A tornado?
Yeah, last week, 2 weeks ago. And it destroyed 500 homes. Only killed one person. It's amazing. But devastated the town. So she's like, well, what can I do? I said, well, run Samaritan's Purse. They came to town. We love Samaritan's Purse. I always support Samaritan's Purse. Now I will always support Samaritan's Purse. That is the greatest organization ever. They are a wonderful organization. But the rescue mission men and I, we went out and cut trees for we cut trees for a solid 8 hours for 7. I don't know. I figured it up. I think over 600 man hours of cutting trees out people's houses, and I've got chains. I've got the stuff to do it. I don't let the men use the chainsaw. They can be grabbing fetches. So, but we did work. We worked, and you know what? The men, I would tell them all the time, man, how you feel about this? Man, we helped somebody. We helped this 91-year-old lady who just came off the mission field, and she's living by herself. I think she got her son lives with her or something, but she couldn't have got. She had trees this big around in her backyard. She couldn't have got those out of there. We did it. Yeah.
Quick question. At your mission, do you guys have a women's section?
No, we don't have. We do not have women in our shelter. We only have men. Okay, but we're such a small community. I mean, we're extremely rural Missouri. We're 3 hours from St. Louis, 3 hours from Memphis, 3 hours from Springfield, 3 hours from Paducah. We're in the middle of no place. And whereas when I first came to the mission, I thought it was going to be like Sacramento, which has a large homeless population. There in Sacramento, we had 10,000 homeless in a 5-block radius. So, and when do you see the homeless? At night. So we drove around the first night when we came to Poplar Bluff, drove around looking for people with shopping carts, you know, that they borrowed. Nobody. Who are we serving here? I didn't know what I was doing. We get there and then come to find out. So when we serve, we don't serve an evening meal, we serve a lunch meal. That's the way the mission was founded all these 50-some years ago, and hard to change what's already been established. I just do what I do. Anyway, so we feed lunch to the community. We feed about 150 people. And they're not homeless. They're what I call the working poor. But most of them don't work. Most of them are on these government programs. And the problem is let me go back to where I was started with these men, is if they don't get a good theology that God wants us to work. See, if you're out on your mission, you're out on your run, you've been doing drugs and alcohol for many years, how do you work? You know, I was a drunk, but I was what they call a working alcoholic. I never missed a day of work. I always went to work. I never missed a day. I mean, I was in the genre of the military. I was a part of the military where it was normal to drink. It was just the normal thing we did. I worked for a very select bunch of people. We went out and did crazy stuff. And we'd be out on crazy stuff. Of course, we weren't drinking when we were out doing crazy stuff. That wasn't the time. But when we came in, we would just be totally stupid with alcohol. We never, just 1 second, we never touched drugs. Because drugs in the military was a big no, you just didn't do that. But that's probably the only reason I didn't do it, because I didn't want to lose my cool weapons and my cool job. You know, I mean, when you get paid to kill people and break things, that's a pretty good job. So I thought it was a good job when I was 19. That was a great job. But the point is I would deal with my problems and the things that I saw with an alcohol bottle. But I still showed up to work. So a lot of people still show up to work all the time. But there's sometimes you get to the point where you don't even do that. You just get where you don't care. So now you got a guy who hasn't even worked in months or years. I remember a guy came to the mission in Sacramento, said he'd roofed for 21 years. I said, really? I'll get you a job tomorrow if you need one. He goes, no, you don't understand. He said, I did 1 year working on a roofing company for 21 times. Right? There's a difference in there. You know, maybe he'd work for somebody for 9 to 10 months, get enough money in his belt, and go get drunk and go someplace else, do it over again. But see, these men, Brian Boatner, do you know who Brian is? He's one of our new guys. He's from Grants Pass. He brought up a point that I'm gonna steal from him. I believe in R&D. I call it rip off and duplicate. He got an idea with his guys that they've got raised beds in the back. We have room for that. Put some raised beds up. I'm thinking about doing that. When I get home, put some raised beds up and giving a guy this is your raised bed. Here's some here's some seeds. You got to grow something. Let's do it.
You're saying it's not like a bed to sleep on, because we have raised beds where we live. A box.
I talk Southern. Okay. So, raised garden beds. I think that's great. Give the men something to do. I mean, we got guys who sit around and do nothing. You know, and I'm always, go find, they don't want me to come through and them just sitting there with their head down on the table sleeping. Because I'm going to give a cleaning rag and tell them, go clean the baseboards. Clean the windows. Do something. Well, they've already been cleaned. Do it again. You know, because I don't believe in just being idle, because these men need to have a good theology that God created this world. We just have to go back to Genesis. You can go through, I've got a book about this thick. I don't think I brought it with me. It is so thick. It's called The Theology of Work. It's cost a bunch of money. But it goes verse by verse through all the different chapters of the Bible where God made. You know, what did God have all the Israelites do? They all had jobs. Even the Levites had jobs. I don't mean even the Levites, but I'm talking about the different families. Like one family had the job, their job was to fold up the tent, the tabernacle. Another job was to take care of all of the sacred things in there. And, you know, blah, blah, blah. Everybody had a job. Why did Uzzah in the Bible get killed? You know that story? The Philistines had the Ark of the Covenant, and they sent it back to Israel on an ox cart. Remember that? Well, God didn't judge them for that. Okay? Why? Because they were Philistines. So when Uzzah, well, what happened was they had put some golden hemorrhoids, okay? Made some golden emerods and some golden mice, because if you remember, because the Philistines had that Ark of the Covenant, they got infested with mice and these emerods, these tumors, okay? So they said, we got to get rid of this thing. In fact, it's kind of an interesting story. They put it in their temple of Dagon, which was this fish god, and the next day they walked in there, and their god had fell over on his face, and his arms had fell off. And actually, if you go into the Hebrew, specifically is they were chopped off. That's what that means in the Hebrew. They were chopped off. Yahweh, God, Yahweh, the God of all gods, the strongest, Elyon, the strongest strong one, chopped those arms off. He puts it back up. The next day, it's falling over again, but this time his head's lopped off. And then they got all these mice and these tumors all over him. Well, we got to do something. So they made these golden mice, these golden tumors, put them in the Ark of the Covenant. They opened it up, put them in there, and they said, this will appease their God. So let's put them in an ox cart with two calves, calves that haven't been weaned from their mother. And where's that cow going to want to go? Wants to go back to mama every time. If you ever had to separate cows, you know what I'm talking about. That mama will bawl for 4 days so she finally forgets she had a calf. So they do, those cows, those baby calves, took off for Israel. Went straight to Obed's house. And what did they do? Somebody said, better look in there and see what happened. Now, these were Israelites. They opened up to look inside there. What happened? 50,000 people died. Guys that didn't even look in there died. So then they got afraid. We're leaving this thing at Obed's house. We're keeping it here. Obed, I'll take it. He was prosperous the whole time the thing was there. Well, then David wanted to get the thing back. David found out it was there. Said, bring this thing back to where it needs to be. So they put it on a cart. Is that how it's supposed to be carried? No. It was the work of the priest to carry it with the staves of gold, to lift it up, 4 of them. God had a specific way they had to do it. God's always specific when he has us do stuff. He has a specific way to do it. But what did they do? They put it in a cart, and what happened? It started to fall. And Uzzah, trying to be a good guy, I'm going to catch this thing. As soon as he touched it, bam, he was dead. They burnt that cart. And they got the priests, and they carried the thing the way they were supposed to, and every so many feet they stopped and gave an offering. God has a specific way for everything, and what you're saying was true. We find our identity when we work. And these men, they come to us, and women, but I'm going to say men, because they just, I think about Tom a lot. I believe Tom would be alive today. And God's got the number in his book when we're going to go. But I believe Tom would be alive today if he just would listen to old Pastor Kirk and went and got a job. And because what self-worth do you have? You know, we have a hard time with these people that hold these signs up. You know, we'll work, or I like the guy, why lie, I need a beer. That's my favorite one. It's on camera, Dave? Okay. That's the one I would actually think about giving money to because he's the only one that's been truthful. You know, and I had a guy when I had an altercation with a guy, and I said, you need to go. You know, you've been here for 3 days. You need to go. This is how I make my money. You need to make money somewhere else. He pushed me out in the street, pushed me out in traffic. Got back up and said, I'm not leaving. You're leaving. You got to go. You can't stay here. You know, the rescue mission will gladly take you in. We got a program. You do the program. I don't want to do a program. I want to go to dirty mission. Well, you ain't been to our mission then, because our mission is anything but dirty. So he ended up spitting in my face. And that was the hardest thing I dealt with in a long time. It's okay. It's okay. It so happened just when it happened. Not just a police officer, but one of my favorite police officers in town. One of the nicest guys named Jeff Hovis, who's a solid Christian, drove by and saw it. Will you sign a deposition that he assaulted you? Absolutely, I will, Jeff. They locked him up. They got him out of town, but he went to jail first, you know. But, you know, he said, that's my work. That's my work. That's not your work, man. That's your scam. You know, I think the men, what we need to do is we need to teach our men that it's okay. I don't care if it's, the hardest thing to do today is to get people to go get a job. I'm not going to go take some menial job. Man, McDonald's is paying $14 an hour. And that's good money. I mean, $20 an hour is about $40,000 a year. You know, I start people off at $20 an hour, and they fold socks for 50 cents a pair that I sell for 50 cents a pair. And you start the mission pretty good. I even had a hard time finding people to work. You know, and our men do work therapy. Our men work for us, and we're teaching them to work. You know, everyone's got something to do, and God started the theology of work in Genesis by showing He created the world for us, and it was good. You know, I believe we're going to be working in heaven. We're going to have work to do. God said that we'll be a ruler over this, that, and the other thing. I don't know where I'm going to be the ruler of. Hopefully not over a rescue mission again, but I'll do it. It'll be different. We don't even know what it's going to be. Can you imagine what that day is going to be like? That's why we say, what a day that will be. When my Jesus I shall see. When I look upon His face, see the wonders of His grace. When He takes me by the hand and leads me through that promised land, what a day, wonderful day that will be. Be no crying there, no more sorrow, no more pain. You know, we just walked the path of my sister's wife's sister died of cancer after 15 terrible, long months. It was horrible to go through. I never want to go through that again. You know, and she was a Christian, but we're still up and down, up and down. You know, but we're going someplace that we're going to work. We're always going to work. And teaching these men that work is a viable option is something they need to know. I mean, I'm not sure why you came to hear me ear bang you, but I'm glad you did. But the point is I don't have any great answers or great numbers. I've been studying this out for some time, and actually I'm writing a curriculum right now about how to work. Because these guys have to learn simple things, like 8 o'clock in the morning is not a suggestion. That's when they expect you to be there. You know, and they really want you to work 5 whole days. You know, then you get a day off. They really want you to work 40 hours in that whole week. You know, it's hard to believe that, you know, people don't get that, but they don't. They don't. And, you know, you can't get people to understand if you take that menial job at minimum wage, you're not going to stay there. If you're any kind of worker at all, you're not staying there. I promise you, you ain't staying there. You know, most of you, I started at the mission as a volunteer, then I became a chaplain, then I became a program director, then I became the development director. You know, it just goes up the line. I went all up the line. Now I'm the big cheese. You know, I like being the one under the big cheese. I'm a good assistant. I love being this. I can be a good assistant. I can be your assistant, Mark. It wouldn't be a problem. All I gotta do, you know, all I have to do is, I can be your assistant too. I almost want to call you Malik, but that's not what it is.
Oh, Mawalo.
Mawalo. I'd be Mawalo's assistant. All I have to do is trust that you're the guy supposed to be in charge. If I know that you're the guy supposed to be in charge, I got no problem working for you. Because my answer is always, I'm a military guy. Yes, sir, 3 bags. Whatever you need done. Now, I always know the assistant director. You know what the assistant director, for all of you that are assistant directors, you know what your job is? Anything the director doesn't want to do. That's the assistant director's job. But that's okay. Oh, and you're the assistant to the assistant. You really got it bad. God created the world, and you know what God was? An artist. The greatest artist ever. Think about how beautiful it is here on this earth. What's it going to be like on the other side? I don't know if you learned anything from me. You probably didn't. But,
You like to tell stories.
I'm good at it, I guess. But I like what I do, and I love rescue mission work. I've been doing this so many years. I won't know what else I do. You know, you ask me what else would I do if I wasn't working? I can't even imagine not working at a rescue mission.
Me too.
I don't even want to do anything else. My pastor friends, I look at them, I don't want your job. I don't want my pastor's job. Sitting drinking tea with old ladies and petting their stupid poodles. I do not want that job. I got bit by some homeless guy's pit bull the other day. I'm like, whatever. Said every homeless person needs a dog because the dog was like homeless before you found him, and now he's still homeless. So, I call them burritos. I call them burritos with legs. So, you know, if you got a dog and you're homeless, you always got something to potentially eat. So,
Definitely a military guy. Definitely a military guy.
yeah. The Lord bless you.
But you got to get the special sauce for your burrito.
All you need is Texas Pete for me. It's hot sauce.
Thanks,
So,
Don.
the Lord bless you all.
Thank you.
Go get some lunch.
Well done, sir.